Why don't Blake Lively and Hugh Jackman's girlfriend Sutton Foster get along? Is one of those intriguing questions that spark curiosity, not because it is about conflict, but because it opens a door into the fascinating, layered, and often surprising world of celebrities where relationships, professional collaborations, fashion statements, charity projects, and fan connections intertwine into stories that feel larger than life. And when we begin with Blake Lively, we see a woman whose career began as a bright young star in Gossip Girl, capturing the imagination of millions with her effortless charm, impeccable fashion sense, and ability to embody both strength and vulnerability on screen. And as her career blossomed into major film roles and red carpet moments, she became not just an actress, but a fashion icon, admired for her bold choices, her creative risk-taking, and her genuine warmth that comes through in interviews and interactions with fans. While Sutton Foster carved her own unique path in theater and television, rising as one of Broadway's most beloved performers, her voice, her presence, and her resilience inspiring countless aspiring artists. And when her path crossed with Hugh Jackman, a man celebrated worldwide not just for Wolverine, but for his kindness, discipline, and tireless charity work, we see how connections in the entertainment world can sometimes create stories that fans interpret as rivalry, tension, or unspoken distance, even when in truth much of it is simply the product of speculation and the endless fascination with celebrity dynamics. And as we wonder about Blake and Sutton, we realize it is not so much about why they may or may not get along, but rather about how their journeys reflect the broader themes of ambition, collaboration, individuality, and the pressures of public life. Because Blake continues to shine not only in film, but also in her entrepreneurial ventures, her advocacy for child health, and her family life alongside Ryan Reynolds, a partnership that fans adore for its humor and relatability, while Sutton represents the dedication of live theater, a field that demands daily consistency, raw vulnerability, and a deep love for the craft, which she balances with her own personal triumphs and challenges, reminding us that every celebrity story has both glitter and grit. And if we move beyond this starting point into the greater world of stars, we find ourselves inspired by journeys that feel like modern fairy tales mixed with real human struggles, like Jennifer Lopez, who began as a dancer, working tirelessly in the background, before the world recognized her as a powerhouse of music, film, and fashion. And her story reminds us that resilience and belief in one's own talent can turn rejection into global superstardom. And then there is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, whose humble beginnings and setbacks in football led him to wrestling, and then into becoming one of the most bankable actors in Hollywood, always paired with an openness about mental health, his deep connection to fans, and his ever-expanding empire that feels built not just on strength, but also on gratitude and storytelling. And we cannot forget the global stars like Priyanka Chopra, who bridged Bollywood and Hollywood, redefining representation on the world stage and using her platform to advocate for education and health initiatives while never losing her sense of cultural pride and authenticity. And as we keep flowing through this journey, the names keep weaving like threads in a giant tapestry, from Taylor Swift, who transformed her career from country music prodigy to global pop phenomenon, writing lyrics that speak directly to her fans, hearts building one of the most dedicated fan communities the world has ever seen, to BTS, the South Korean group who broke barriers of language, geography, and genre to become symbols of passion, discipline, and unity, reminding us that inspiration travels beyond borders. And in each of these stories, whether it is Blake Lively's dazzling red carpet appearances, or Sutton Foster's unforgettable Broadway performances, or Hugh Jackman's legendary versatility, we see not rivalry, but a shared dedication to art and connection. And yet fans still love to ask why one celebrity may not get along with another, because it humanizes them. It makes them feel like friends and neighbors who go through misunderstandings and differences. And this curiosity becomes the doorway for us to explore even more stories like Oprah Winfrey, who grew from unimaginable hardships to become one of the most influential voices in media, using her platform to lift others and create opportunities, or Keanu Reeves, whose personal tragedies never dimmed his kindness and humility, making him one of the most beloved figures across generations, admired for both his film career and his quiet generosity. And in telling these stories one after another, we realize that what draws us in is not just the glamour of fashion, weeks, the sparkle of award shows, or the thrill of box office records, but the emotional undercurrent of perseverance, transformation, and the ability of these individuals to inspire millions by simply living their lives in the public eye with courage, style, and humanity. And as we keep traveling deeper into this vibrant world of celebrities, the thread that connects them all becomes clearer. It is not simply fame or fortune, but a certain spark, a relentless drive to create and share something that touches lives. And when we think of Blake Lively once again standing on a carpet with dazzling gowns, she herself styled because she never hires a stylist, she shows us a kind of self-assurance that is rare in Hollywood, a reminder that confidence can be crafted. Not only by talent, but by trusting your own instincts. And on the other side of the artistic spectrum, Sutton Foster shows that mastery in theater requires discipline, repetition, and emotional honesty. Her journey through shows like Thoroughly Modern, Millie and Younger, and her work with Hugh Jackman on stage highlights how live performance creates a unique connection that cannot be edited or retaken. It is pure, raw, and human. And while fans may spin stories about tension between Blake and Sutton, the reality is that both embody different but equally inspiring models of artistic success. And if we step from their stage to the larger panorama, we cannot overlook icons like Beyoncé, whose story from Destiny's Child to solo superstardom is one of vision control and relentless perfectionism. She built not just albums but cultural events, each performance crafted to leave an imprint on history, while also leading philanthropic efforts that empower young women and support communities worldwide. And then we have Lady Gaga, who showed the world that being unapologetically yourself can move mountains. Her daring fashion, her fearless art, and her vulnerable honesty about struggles with mental health have made her not just an entertainer, but a symbol of resilience and self-acceptance. And in contrast yet harmony, we see someone like Tom Hanks, who embodies steadiness, humility, and kindness, consistently choosing roles that echo his grounded nature while maintaining a reputation as one of the nicest figures in Hollywood, proving that, in an industry that often thrives on drama, kindness is its own form of charisma. And then shifting across the globe, we see actors like Shah Rukh Khan, who rose from humble beginnings in India to become the king of Bollywood, not only dominating cinema with charisma and charm, but also using his success to fund hospitals, schools, and countless initiatives for the underprivileged. His story shows that celebrity power magnified with generosity becomes a force of real change. And speaking of transformation, who can forget Robert Downey Jr., who went from struggles with addiction and setbacks that nearly ended his career to becoming Iron Man, a role that not only revived his trajectory but also inspired fans to believe in second chances and redemption. And similarly, Drew Barrymore, who began as a child star, faced turbulence, but reinvented herself as a talk show host and entrepreneur, embracing authenticity and imperfection as her greatest strengths. And if we return again to the theme of fan connection, we cannot overlook Taylor Swift, who continues to weave Easter eggs into her songs and albums, creating a world where her fans feel like part of the story, sharing theories, celebrating lyrics, and building communities that stretch across continents. And similar magic is found in the rise of K-pop acts like Blackpink, whose journey from trainees to international headliners at Coachella proved that dedication and global unity can rewrite cultural boundaries, making them role models for young people worldwide. And at the heart of it all lies fashion, because celebrities do not just wear clothes. They create statements like Zendaya, who has become not only a phenomenal actress, but a fashion force with red carpet looks that merge art and storytelling, and who also uses her platform to advocate for diversity and representation in Hollywood. Or Rihanna, whose Fenty empire revolutionized beauty by championing inclusivity, offering shades and styles that reflect the real world, not just a narrow standard. And her journey from music to business titan inspires fans to believe that reinvention is always possible. And when we talk about reinvention, we must mention Madonna, who has spent decades redefining herself, refusing to be confined by age expectations or labels, reminding the world that creativity knows no timeline. And alongside her contemporaries like Cher, these icons show that endurance in entertainment is as powerful as the first spark of stardom. And yet for every legend, there are also quieter heroes like Brendan Fraser, whose return to the spotlight with The Whale brought audiences to tears, not only because of his performance, but because his comeback symbolized hope for anyone who has felt overlooked or forgotten. And the standing ovations he received were not just for his role, but for his resilience, his humanity, and his courage to stand tall once more. And moving forward, we find athletes who have become celebrities in their own right, like Serena Williams, whose dominance on the tennis court is matched only by her grace, often inspiring generations of athletes and entrepreneurs. Or Cristiano Ronaldo, whose journey from a small town in Madeira to global football icon is fueled by relentless discipline, family pride, and charitable endeavors. And Lionel Messi, who despite his quiet personality, captured the world with his artistry on the field, proving that greatness does not always need loudness. Sometimes it just needs authenticity and persistence, and all these stories from actors to singers to athletes merge into one larger truth that celebrities remind us of our own potential. They hold up mirrors to our struggles and triumphs, and in their redemptions, their reinventions, and their iconic moments. We see reflections of what it means to keep going to dream bigger, and to embrace both the applause and the silence with equal courage. And as the lights shine on these, stars from Blake Lively styling her own gowns to Sutton Foster, belting out Broadway numbers to Hugh Jackman balancing blockbuster films with heartfelt charity galas. We are reminded that the world of celebrities is not only about who gets along or who does not, it is about how their lives become stories. We carry with us stories that inspire us to reach for our own spotlight in whatever stage we choose. And as we drift further through this journey of stardom and humanity, the rhythm of celebrity stories becomes like a melody, constantly shifting between crescendos of triumph and the soft notes of vulnerability, reminding us that behind the dazzling gowns and flashing cameras are people whose journeys reflect hope, perseverance, and courage. And we return again to Blake Lively, who, while shining in Hollywood, also dedicates her influence to causes like child advocacy and anti-exploitation initiatives, proving that the spotlight can illuminate issues that matter far beyond entertainment, while Sutton Foster dedicates time to teaching masterclasses, mentoring young performers, and showing that artistry can be passed on to the next generation. And Hugh Jackman alongside them radiates generosity through his Laughing Man Coffee Company, which directs profits to community programs, reminding us that fame can be a megaphone for kindness. And if we step from this trio into the global panorama, we encounter Angelina Jolie, whose work with refugees has made her not just an Oscar-winning actress, but a humanitarian recognized by the United Nations. And her story blends the power of celebrity with the urgency of human rights, and we think also of Leonardo DiCaprio, whose relentless advocacy for the environment mirrors his relentless pursuit of excellence on screen, blending art with activism in a way that inspires audiences to care about the planet as much as they care about cinema. And if we pivot to younger stars, we see the meteoric rise of Timothée Chalamet, who, with his delicate balance of indie charm and blockbuster presence, represents a new era of actors unafraid to be both vulnerable and stylish, redefining masculinity for a generation. And we also find Millie Bobby Brown, who began as a child star on Stranger Things and quickly grew into a role model, launching her own beauty line, advocating against bullying, and showing young fans that success can be coupled with purpose. And speaking of purpose, we cannot forget Malala Yousafzai. Though not a celebrity in the traditional entertainment sense, she has become a global icon through her advocacy for girls' education, standing alongside the stars of Hollywood at award shows and events, because her voice resonates with the same, if not greater, power, reminding us that fame is not only built on screens and stages, but also on courage and conviction. And this blend of worlds highlights the beauty of inspiration. Because while fans may follow their favorite singers for melodies or actors for roles they also carry forward, the causes and values these figures represent, like when Selena Gomez speaks candidly about mental health, or when Demi Lovato transforms their struggles into anthems of empowerment, creating communities of empathy where fans feel less alone, and music continues to be one of the strongest threads of connection with stars like Ed Sheeran, whose humble beginnings as a street performer echo through his concerts that still feel intimate. Despite filling stadiums, and his openness about songwriting makes fans feel as though each lyric was written just for them. And contrasting but equally inspiring is Billie Eilish, who with her unique style and voice proved that authenticity resonates stronger than conformity, and her bond with fans often feels like a conversation rather than a performance. And across the oceans, we see global legends like Jackie Chan, who turned martial art cinema into a universal language, blending comedy, courage, and creativity, while also dedicating vast resources to charity and education. And we see Lupita Nyong'o, whose breakout role in 12 Years a Slave earned her an Academy Award, and whose continued presence in films like Black Panther alongside her advocacy for diversity in storytelling has made her an international role model. And we cannot ignore Meryl Streep, whose decades of brilliance remind us that longevity in Hollywood is earned through constant reinvention and unwavering commitment to craft. And across generations, these figures create bridges between eras, from the golden age stars like Audrey Hepburn, who not only defined elegance on screen, but also dedicated her later years to UNICEF, to today's icons who balance Instagram feeds with activism, proving that influence in the digital age can reach corners of the world faster than ever before. And through this, all the fashion industry continues to merge with Celebrity culture creating iconic collaborations such as Pharrell Williams leading Louis Vuitton or Kanye West reshaping the sneaker landscape with Yeezy. And whether fans agree or disagree with creative directions, these ventures symbolize how art, music, fashion, and identity interlace into one continuous cultural wave. And on that wave ride, countless stories have come back, like Britney Spears, who after years of public struggles returned to a place of empowerment, supported by fans who never stopped believing. Or Justin Bieber, who transitioned from teen idol to mature artist, openly discussing faith and mental health along the way, reminding us that growth is never linear, but always possible. And woven into this same thread is Katy Perry, whose colorful performances and philanthropic efforts show that joy itself can be a form of resilience and happiness, a kind of rebellion against adversity. And if we circle back once more to why people wonder about dynamics like Blake Lively and Sutton Foster, we see that what draws audiences is not animosity, but the chance to glimpse authenticity, to wonder if stars who seem larger than life face the same misunderstandings, friendships, and differences that we do in our own lives. Because when we watch them collaborate, laugh at award shows, or sometimes appear distant, it reassures us that humanity remains the common denominator, no matter the fame. And as the lights keep shining across continents and generations, we realize that the magic of celebrity is not confined to one stage or one screen. It stretches into the hearts of people who may never meet these figures, yet feel connected through their art, their words, and their actions. And returning to Blake Lively again, we are reminded that her appeal lies not just in her acting, but in her relatability. She speaks about motherhood, about balancing career and family with a tone that feels like a conversation with a friend, which is why fans admire her beyond her glamorous gowns. While Sutton Foster demonstrates that the stage can be a sanctuary, where vulnerability and discipline blend into something powerful, teaching us that art is as much about practice as it is about inspiration. And Hugh Jackman ever graceful moves between genres, musicals, dramas, action films, and philanthropy, making him a rare example of versatility that never loses authenticity. And when we think about their names in the same sentence, it is less about conflict and more about the spectrum of artistry they represent and stepping from their world into the wider galaxy of stars. We see the phenomenon of Beyoncé at the Super Bowl turning a halftime performance into a global celebration of culture identity and excellence, proving that music is not only sound, but vision and choreography and history, all fused into one unforgettable moment. And similarly, we witness the journeys of stars like Shakira, who carried her Colombian roots onto the world stage, blending Spanish and English in songs that united fans across continents, while also dedicating herself to building schools and empowering children. And these stories lead naturally into the realm of actors like Chadwick Boseman, whose portrayal of Black Panther became more than a role. It became a symbol of pride and representation. And when he left this world too soon, his legacy continued to remind fans that impact is measured not in years, but in depth. And then we think of Heath Ledger, whose Joker redefined what a performance could be, leaving behind an iconic legacy that continues to inspire actors everywhere. And in another corner of Hollywood, we have Anne Hathaway, who, after facing criticism early in her career, re-emerged stronger than ever, embracing authenticity and standing as an advocate for equality and kindness. And then we drift to stars like Gal Gadot, who not only embodied Wonder Woman on screen, but also carried that message off screen, encouraging strength, empowerment, and compassion. And as we shift again, we land on the immense success of Oprah Winfrey, whose empire is rooted not only in interviews and business ventures, but in her consistent message that every person has a story worth telling. And her generosity has funded schools and opportunities across the world, reminding us that influence is most powerful when it is shared. And if we cross into the world of music again, we meet Elton John, whose decades of performances are matched by his decades of advocacy for HIV and AIDS research, proving that music and activism can walk hand in hand, and Paul McCartney, whose Beatles legacy alone would have been enough, but who continued, spreading messages of peace and love for generations. And if we wander further into the stories of resilience, we find Demi Moore, who opened conversations about body image and vulnerability, and Samuel L. Jackson, whose story of overcoming addiction to become one of the highest-grossing actors in history speaks to the power of second chances and redemption. And these stories stretch beyond film and music into the realm of sports, with icons like Michael Jordan, who turned basketball into a global spectacle while also turning his brand into an enduring empire, and Serena and Venus Williams, whose dedication turned a childhood dream into world dominance, while also breaking barriers for women and people of color in sports. And if we return again to fan interactions, it is impossible not to think of Taylor Swift inviting fans into her home for listening sessions, or BTS holding concerts where fans feel not just entertained, but loved and valued, creating relationships that feel more like friendships than celebrity fandom. And this culture of closeness has redefined what it means to be a public figure in the 21st century. Because now celebrities are not distant figures on pedestals, but voices in our playlists, faces in our feeds, and sometimes even people who respond directly to fans, making dreams come true with a single reply. And as technology evolves with platforms like TikTok and Instagram, rising new celebrities are born. Every day, influencers, actors, singers blending into one ecosystem of storytelling where creativity is the new currency. And among them, stars like Charli D'Amelio or Addison Rae show that fame can begin in a bedroom and expand to red carpets, reminding us that opportunity today looks different but still requires talent, persistence, and courage. And at the same time, established stars like Jennifer Aniston adapt to these changes, using social media not only to connect with fans, but also to break the illusion of perfection by showing humor, vulnerability, and authenticity, which endears them even more. And in all of this, the pattern becomes clear that whether it is Blake Lively styling her own outfits, Sutton Foster teaching Broadway classics, or Hugh Jackman sipping coffee for charity, the essence of celebrity is not rivalry, but resonance. The ability to spark something in others that lasts far beyond a headline or a performance. And that is why these stories matter. They remind us that inspiration can be found in every journey, and that fame at its best is a reflection of the endless possibilities within us all. And as the curtain rises on yet another chapter of this ongoing story, we realize that celebrities often embody both the extraordinary and the ordinary. They become mirrors of our hopes while also revealing their own struggles that remind us of our shared humanity. And when we think again of Blake Lively, she shows that even within the chaos of Hollywood, there is room for authenticity. Because she has spoken about insecurities, about motherhood, and about carving out space for creativity. On her own terms, making her a symbol for people who wish to pursue dreams without losing themselves, while Sutton Foster continues to thrive in a realm that demands discipline and dedication. Broadway, a world where applause is earned fresh every night, where no two shows are exactly the same. And her story reflects the idea that artistry is not about perfection, but about presence. And Hugh Jackman stands as the glue between these worlds, seamlessly balancing the intensity of blockbuster films with the elegance of musical theater, while always prioritizing compassion and humility. And when we ask why people are fascinated with whether Blake and Sutton get along, we see that the fascination is less about animosity and more about the desire to understand how these different artistic energies coexist within the vast constellation of celebrity culture. And as we widen the lens, again we see the story of Jennifer Lopez, whose career is a lesson in reinvention, moving from dancer to actress to global music superstar to business mogul and philanthropist, never letting criticism or setbacks hold her back. And then we look at someone like Mariah Carey, whose voice defined a generation and whose resilience carried her through personal and professional challenges to remain an enduring icon of music and holiday joy. And then we step into the story of Adele, who began with raw, soulful performances and transformed her vulnerability into power, making her one of the most relatable and admired voices of her generation. And alongside her, we find Sam Smith, who also turned vulnerability into strength, creating anthems of identity and love that resonate with millions. And if we pivot to the acting world again, we encounter Will Smith, whose decades-long career from the Fresh Prince to Academy Award winner reflects charisma, ambition, and resilience, even as he navigates both triumphs and challenges in the public eye. And right beside him, we see Jada Pinkett Smith, who has carved her own path through acting, music, and hosting honest conversations, reminding us that storytelling is not confined to scripts, but can also be found in open dialogue. And then there is Viola Davis, who has broken barriers as one of the most powerful actresses of our time, her performances brimming with intensity and truth, while her advocacy for inclusion and equality in Hollywood has made her a voice for change. And when we look across the ocean to stars like Cate Blanchett, we see artistry that blends elegance with daring choices, a career that embodies versatility and depth. And at the same time, we see Hugh Jackman's Australian contemporary, Nicole Kidman, who has moved seamlessly between mainstream and indie cinema, while also advocating for important causes, proving that celebrity power can illuminate overlooked stories. And while discussing overlooked stories, we cannot ignore the rise of Asian representation in Hollywood with stars like Michelle Yeoh, who, after decades of work, achieved her long-deserved recognition with an Academy Award. And her story demonstrates that persistence and passion can overcome barriers of age, gender, and culture. And in the same vein, we celebrate Dev Patel, whose journey, from Slumdog Millionaire to acclaimed dramatic roles, inspires young actors everywhere. That authenticity and cultural pride can coexist with global success. And then we drift to another dimension of celebrity influence through charity with stars, like Matt Damon founding Water.org to provide clean drinking water, or Angelina Jolie funding schools and clinics in conflict zones, and Leonardo DiCaprio protecting forests and oceans. Their actions demonstrating that stardom at its best amplifies solutions to global problems. And we find ourselves inspired again by Keanu Reeves, who quietly donates large portions of his earnings and treats film crews with respect that has become legendary among fans, showing that humility is the greatest form of celebrity. And circling back to music, we see Harry Styles, whose transition from boy band fame to solo artistry reflects courage, individuality, and fashion that challenges gender norms, inspiring fans to embrace freedom and authenticity, while his concerts feel like safe spaces where joy and acceptance thrive. And we think of Lizzo, who empowers fans with messages of self-love, body positivity, and musical brilliance, blending fun and empowerment in a way that redefines pop culture. And then there is Taylor Swift again, whose career is like a novel written in albums each era, a chapter of resilience, reinvention, and connection to her fan base, reminding us that stories told through music can become soundtracks to people's lives. And alongside her, global forces like BTS and Blackpink, who use their voices to inspire unity across languages and cultures, stand as proof that the future of celebrity is international, collaborative, and diverse. And through all these stories, we find the common thread of perseverance, resilience, and humanity that makes these individuals relatable despite the glamour. Because whether they are walking red carpets, performing under spotlights, or quietly working behind the scenes, their journeys remind us of the potential within us to dream, to fail to rise again, and to leave a mark. And as the applause echoes from Broadway stages to stadium concerts to film premieres, we realize that the fascination with celebrities, whether through friendships, rivalries, or romances, is ultimately a fascination with possibility. The possibility that no matter where you begin, your story can grow into something extraordinary.